Samantha.
All right. Well, thanks, Devin, and thank you all for joining me today. I'm excited to be here and share what I know about Record Manager. Before we begin, I wanted to give you a general idea of where we're going. I'll start with an introduction, followed by a demonstration of tasks associated with copy cataloging, and then I'll stop for questions. After that, we'll move on to tasks associated with catalog cleanup, creating and editing bibliographic records, then another pause for questions. The final section will include creating labels, getting help with Record Manager, and any final questions. Let's get started with a bit of introduction. First, some info on me and my experience with WMS. I'm the Metadata Librarian at Shaw University Libraries and have been since October 2019. Here's a photo of my library. This is my first job using WMS and actually my first job as a tech services librarian. There was no internal training or documentation and no other tech services staff, and there still is no other tech services staff. I love a GIF, especially a Moira from Schitt's Creek GIF, and this is one I found applicable to my situation when I started at Shaw, and maybe how some of you feel about getting started with Record Manager. So I'm excited to share with y'all based on what I've taught myself, but I'm also hoping that we can learn from each other and maybe get a bit of a community going, since I'm a one-woman show at my library and not an expert. Here's some background info on how cataloging in WMS works. About a year into my job, I found the tutorial I linked on this slide, and it helped me clarify a few things. So I recommend checking that out, but here are some key points. WorldCat is your local catalog, which you access via WorldCat Discovery, your patron-facing / online catalog. And WorldCat contains one bibliographic record per manifestation. All libraries indicate their holdings in WorldCat. All libraries attach their holdings to the same WorldCat record, which displays for everyone. But WMS libraries also add local holdings records, LHRs, and local bibliographic data, LBD. You have the ability to add information and correct errors in bibliographic records, but it isn't necessary. You can use the records exactly as is. If you do edit bib records, those changes will take effect for all libraries. All of your library's physical items must be in WorldCat, and you need local holdings records for all physical materials in order to circulate them and show availability in WorldCat Discovery. You can create LHRs through acquisitions, circulation, or Record Manager, and you create one per physical item. Local bibliographic data is bibliographic data not of interest or applicable to another library, and it displays only in your library's instance of WorldCat Discovery. There is no need to export bibliographic records in order for them to show as held in your catalog, and no need to export authority records either. If you do need to do an original cataloging, you can create a new bib record or derive from an existing record. Let's get into Record Manager, starting with a quick overview of how to navigate within it. This slide lists an outline, but I'm going to demo these things in Record Manager. Just a note that I'm going to be spending most of my time from here on out demonstrating in Record Manager, but I do have at least bullet point outlines and summaries on the presentation slides, so you'll have those to refer to later. Okay, I'm going to start with a few keyword searches of my library holdings, just to get a few searches going. So as you see, every new search I do adds another tab to the left column rather than replacing my screen entirely. So I can still go back and forth and navigate between them. The most recent search I did is always at the top. Here are my results for my Obama search. I want to make you aware of two options here you'll see throughout WMS. Rows per page, right here, and the refresh icon, right here. You can change the number of rows that appear per page. And whenever this refresh option is available, if you need to refresh your record manager for some reason, this is going to work better for you than refreshing the whole browser. I'm also going to filter to print books right now. Okay, so if I open a bibliographic record, I can return to my search. My search results list using the tab that's still listed over here. As I open more bibliographic records, you can see it creating tabs again, like it did with my searches. I can go back to my search and open another one. So the same thing happens here as happened with the searches. Each opens a new tab. The most recently opened is always at the top, and each tab remains accessible unless I close it on purpose with its specific X or this close all tabs button here. I can also navigate between detailed records in my results list from an open bib record using these arrows at the top right. You'll see that this does not open a new tab. It scrolls through in the same tab you were in. I'm going to go back to this record and look at the LHRs. This bib record has 2 LHRs attached, and you can see the refresh icon and the rows per page making an appearance here again. I can open one. And again, I have the option of scrolling between them with these arrows at the top if I want. Or I can use the open tabs to navigate back to my bib records or my searches. When I have multiple bib records open, it can be difficult to remember which is related to the LHR I'm currently looking at. So I find this linked OCLC number helpful because that will easily pop me back to the correct record. Both the bib record and the LHR have these menus up at the top. I'll point out some specific functions later as we talk through different tasks, but I recommend exploring these menus and note that options you find on the edit menu here and on the edit menu on your bib record are also found by right-clicking in the fields in the record. You have buttons available to move fields here and to add and remove fields on the right side here. And there are keyboard shortcuts available for some of the things I've just talked about. I included a link to those in the presentation slides if you're interested. There's that keyboard shortcuts link. Next, we'll talk about how to complete tasks related to copy cataloging. First, finding the correct bibliographic record. These are some tools that I use when copy cataloging to find the bibliographic record that matches the item I have in hand. And I'm going to head back to Record Manager to demo them, starting with user preferences, followed by facets, advanced search, and comparing 2 records. Okay, I'm going to go to user preferences. It has its own button over here. You have some different options available in user preferences that can help you be more efficient when you're searching. You can avoid repeatedly selecting options from drop-down menus if you have what you typically prefer to use already set by default. There are several categories here. The one I've customized is searching basic. And this customizes these drop-down menus over here. I'm going to give you a brief tour of my settings, but I've put screenshots of my settings in the presentation slides in case you want more details of what I did. Under data type options, you can select whether you want each of these data types to display in the menu and what order you want them to display in. Then for each data type here, which you can toggle between these tabs, you can select whether you can select the search scopes, which are down here. Which ones display and their order. You can further customize each search scope by clicking on it. And here you can choose the default sorting method for that scope and the index display order. So in my settings, I've customized data type options, bib record search scopes, all WorldCat and my library holdings within the bib record search scopes, LHRs, the search scopes, and my LHRs Here are the screenshots I mentioned you can refer to later. So I'm doing my copy cataloging. I have my user preferences set, and I do a basic search for the item I need to copy catalog. Maybe I use the ISBN if possible, or I'll do a keyword search using words from the title and author's name if there's no ISBN available. I'm going to show you a few of the tools I use to help me with my search: facets, advanced search, and compare. Let me do a demo basic ISBN search, an all world cat. My first step is that I always use the facets as a way to control for errors. I use language of cataloging, format, and language down here before I even start looking at the results to ensure I don't accidentally choose an ebook in Spanish, for example, when I have a print book in English. If I don't get the results I need, maybe there's no ISBN on the book and the title and author's keywords aren't specific enough, so I'm getting a wide range of matching results, I'll do an advanced search. Here I can specify my terms as title and author terms, and typically I'll add a publisher term as well. You can see that you have a lot more index options in advanced search than you do in basic search. You can also add up to 5 terms. Okay. You can also achieve an advanced search in the basic search box using index labels, which explains if you hover over this question mark icon. There's also the option to compare 2 records, which I'll do in a situation where I'm trying to decide between 2 records that are close, and I'm trying to weigh the pros and cons of each. Let's say I wanted to compare these top 2 records. I will copy the OCLC number of one of them and open the other. Then I go to Record, Compare, and I paste the OCLC number in. You also have this option to search for the record you're looking for. I hit Compare, and this shows me a comparison of the 2 records field by field. All right. So you found your matching bibliographic record. The next step in your copy cataloging journey is to add a local holdings record, since, as I mentioned earlier, you have to have an LHR for every physical item. Quick note that text view is available in both bib records and LHRs, but I don't use it, so I'm not going to go into it, and I'm sticking with Mark 21 view for this presentation. The primary reason I don't use it for LHRs, at least, is because you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I can tell, I can't use constant data in text view. What is constant data, you ask? Great question. Let's talk about that next. Constant data records are basically templates you create and save, then apply to your records, bibliographic or local holdings, that will pre-fill certain fields for you. They are a great way to control for errors, so you don't forget to add or edit a field, or you don't mistype something. They keep your data constant. First, let's talk about how to create a constant data record. So back to Record Manager, there are 3 ways to do this. One way is to derive it from an existing local holdings record. Go to one here. Let's say you've created this local holdings record, you checked it over, and you think it's good, and you know you're going to be cataloging more items like it in the future. You can go to Record, LHR Constant Data, Derive. This brings you to the Constant Data Record Editor in the toolbox. Here, you delete anything that will not be applicable to more LHRs in the future, such as maybe the call number and the barcode, and then click Save Record. It prompts you to name the record, and you want to name it whatever will tell you what kind of LHRs it will apply to due to the specific data in it. For example, naming it according to the branch and shelving location, what type of material it is, and whether it's single or multi-part. Another way to create a constant data record is to derive it from an existing constant data record. For example, maybe you created a constant data record for a multi-part item in one shelving location, and now you need one for a different shelving location. You go to your list of LHR constant data records in the toolbox, open the one that you want to derive from, and then go to Record, Derive Constant Data. Then you'd make any edits that are applicable to the new type of item, click Save Record, and name it. The final option for creating a constant data record is to do it from scratch by clicking the New Record button up here. From your list of constant data records, you can select a default all the way on the right side in this column, which promotes that record to the top of your list when you're choosing which record to apply to an LHR. So if you know that you're going to be working on a certain type of item for a chunk of time, it's helpful to come here and choose that one as a default. Now let's go over how to create an LHR and then apply a constant data record to it. Going back to a bib record. When you're in a bib record, click Record, LHR, Derive. This creates the LHR and automatically brings certain information into it from the bib record, like the call number. At this point, you could just edit it individually and save it, but if you want to apply constant data, go to Record, LHR Constant Data, Derive, or excuse me, Record, LHR Constant Data, Apply and Preview Constant Data. There is one other option here, Apply Default Constant Data, which applies the one you set as default. So see, that seems very convenient and easy. But for whatever reason, this option erases the call number that was copied from the bib record. So I never use that. And I go instead to Apply and Preview. You can choose which constant data record here. And you can see that this is where your default record has been promoted to the top. And then there are a few other options here that I never end up changing. And then you click Apply Constant Data. Then you can make any more edits you need and click Save. You can also apply constant data records to existing LHRs. If I find an LHR that needs some cleaning up, I'll start by applying constant data so I know all those foundational pieces of data are taken care of, and then make any other final edits. Another tool I find useful in copy cataloging as well as original cataloging is View in WorldCat Discovery, which is under the Record menu in both LHRs and bib records. So you go to Record, View in WorldCat Discovery. Sometimes it's helpful to see how the edits you've been making in Record Manager will actually display to the user. A recent change in Record Manager is that you can also see other libraries' LHRs. From a bib record, you click Other Libraries, then any library that has this Local Holdings Available link, you can click on that. If there's multiple copies, you have to choose a copy, and then you can see their LHR. Another tool you have in your toolbox is strings, both field and text. These are applicable to LHRs, but also to bib records and local bibliographic data. Strings are lines of text you can save and insert into records. Field strings can only be inserted in the fields you specify, and text strings can be inserted anywhere. I use field strings to add consistent 500 fields to LBD for alumni and faculty publications and donations. I use text strings for items that are signed by the author because I use this phrase in the LHR 876 field, subfield Z public note, and you can't create a field string for just a subfield. Inserting a field string erases everything else in the field. So if I were to create this as a field string for the 876 field, if I try to insert it, it would delete everything else I have in that field, which typically includes the barcode. To insert a field string in local bibliographic data, for example, you go down to the LBD section of the record, and if it doesn't have any local bibliographic data yet, you have to add it by clicking this Add LBD Record button. You add a field, and you right-click and go to Field, insert field string, but weirdly, if you're just added a new field, you have to type something in the field tag to make the option not grayed out. I don't know why. And then you say insert field string. You search for your string and click it to insert it. And as you see, it then fills in the correct field tag. To insert a text string, similar process, you right click, go to field, insert text string, search for it. And as you see, that just inserts exactly where I had my cursor. So here's a summary of what I demonstrated with creating and applying constant data records, and also what I demonstrated with strings. Okay, any questions or comments so far?
So feel free to submit them in the chat, and I can read them out. Or give a thumbs up if you're good and want to continue going. All right, we've got thumbs up, so I think we're good to go.
Okay, great. All right. Now I'm going to demonstrate some tools you might use when cleaning up your catalog. We'll talk about LHR searching, bulk editing and record work lists, moving an LHR from one bibliographic record to another, and the other records linked to work section. I'll head back over to Record Manager. Goes away. Okay, when cleaning up the catalog, you might be more likely to need to find LHRs than bib records. I'm going to do an LHR search here. The LHR data type in the basic search gives you much different index options because the information you're searching for must be found in the local holdings record, not the bibliographic record. So things like title and author are not available since that data is housed in the bib record. I'm just going to do a branch shelving location search so I can get a list of results here. There are a few bulk edits you can make from an LHR search results list. So if I select a few, and those are found under the actions menu, like change branch and change shelving location for multiple records at once. From LHR search results, you can also send records to a record work list using this button here. Record work lists give you even more options for bulk editing up to 9,000 records at once, rather than performing those edits record by record. If I select to send a record, I can create a new record work list right here, or I can send them to a list I've already created. Record work lists are found in their own special button over here. And you can have bibliographic, LBD, and LHR lists. I'm going to open this test list. And under the actions menu, there are additional ways I can add items to my list. I can use control numbers from LHRs, which are found in the 001 field of an LHR, or I can use barcodes. The actions menu is also where you can view and remove records from your list and edit items once you've selected which script you're going to use. So down here is where we do that. This is where you choose and select the settings for the script you want to use in this script information section. Scripts are basically edit actions you apply to multiple records at once. Base scripts are the ones WMS has created. And you have about 20 options here. You can search for one, or you click this Find and Select Script button as well to look at them. Hovering over this question mark will link you right to the documentation if you need that. You can also create customized scripts using the base scripts. So let's say you know you're going to need to add a certain note to the 876 field again in the future, multiple times. You can set that up as a customized script so you can skip selecting the options and typing in the note text the next time you run the script. You can also create script packages, which allow you to run up to 5 customized scripts in the order you specify. In order to create a script package, you have to create the customized scripts first. You create both of these, the customized scripts and the packages, in Toolbox, the button over here. Once you have your script ready to go in your record work list, you have the option to apply it to all the records on your list, selected records, or you have these options for filtering the results in your list. And you initiate the script up here in Actions, Edit, either selected, filtered, or all records. Another cleanup task you might need to do is to move an LHR from one bib record to another. Maybe it's attached to the wrong record, you found a better, or you found a better, more complete bib record. You can do this from a few different places. From an LHR search results list, that is one of the options under the Actions menu. Move to a different bibliographic record. You can also do it from the LHR list attached to a bib record. So I'll go back to this bib record here, down to the LHRs. There's this Move LHRs button, and you can select which ones and move those, or move all. Or in an LHR detailed record, you go to Record, move to different bibliographic record. So in all cases, no matter where you're doing this from, you have the option of pasting in an OCLC number or searching for the record. And you can check this box to automatically delete the WorldCat holding if this is the last LHR on this bibliographic record. From the list on the bib record, we go back to that option. You choose this one, you get an additional option of what to do with any associated local bibliographic data. Finally, in the context of catalog cleanup, I wanted to point out the Other Records Linked to Work section up here, which you can expand or collapse. As you can see, this section has a table of basic information about all the records associated with this work. I find this section to be a helpful way to double check that there isn't a more correct or more complete record I should attach my LHR to, and that there aren't other copies my library owns that I might have missed in my search. So here's a summary of what I demonstrated with searching, bulk editing, and record work lists, moving an LHR to a different bibliographic record, and the usefulness of other records linked to work. Next up is creating and editing bibliographic records. We'll go over creating and saving records and a handful of editing tools. Before you create a new bib record, of course, determine that that record does not already exist in WorldCat. Then there are 2 ways to create a bibliographic record: derive it from an existing similar record, or create a new record using a material type template. I'll show you how to do this, starting with deriving. Deriving a record will copy some of the data from the existing record into the new record. So you want to make sure it's fairly similar. From an open bibliographic record, go to Record, Derive Bibliographic Record, Derive, or derive with default constant data, or derive and preview constant data. If you have constant data set up for bibliographic records, like we talked about earlier with LHRs, these are grayed out for me because I don't have bib record constant data right now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on Derive. And you can see that there's already a lot of data pre-filled in for you when you derive. You can also click Derive from a bibliographic record search results list. There's a button over here, Derive. To create a new record using a material type template, you click Create Record. It has its own button over here. And you select the appropriate options. So if you prefer to edit it in Mark 21 view or text view, if you prefer AACR2 or RDA, and what material type your item is. And then you can also apply constant data records right here, but like I said, mine is grayed out. And you'll see that a few things are pre-populated, but not really many and not nearly as many as if you derive a record. When you're done editing your new record, whichever way you go about creating it, you go to Save, Add Record to WorldCat, or Save, Add Record, and Set WorldCat Holding. This second option will also set that your library holds a copy, though you still have to add an LHR to actually show availability and location and be able to circulate the item. You can also save as an in-progress record if you're only partially done and need to come back and finish it later. And then you can find your in-progress records again by doing a search here for bibliographic records with the Saved in Progress scope. If you need to save edits you made to an existing bib record in WorldCat, you correct an error, you enrich the record somehow that already existed, you go to Save, Replace Bibliographic Record. Okay, so that's creating and saving. Let's talk through a few bib record editing tools. You can easily change the material type of your record by going to Record, Change Material Type, and selecting it. Any field with a little triangle to the left of it, we have a few here, a couple more down here. Those can be expanded to show what WMS calls a guided entry panel, where you can choose options from drop-down menus rather than manually typing in the data. And this is especially helpful for the fixed fields. If you right-click on a field and go to Field Help, mark Tooltip, or you hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and click the field, you get this little box that pops up that lists the available subfields for that field, and you can just click one to insert it. It popped in a subfield C. You don't have to do that to insert a subfield, however, you can just type it. To control headings, which is always a good idea, so they'll be automatically updated if the headings change, you can control a single field or all fields at once. To control a single field, you'll right-click on that field and go to Control Heading, either add or remove. To control all headings in the record, you can go to Record, Control All Headings. To insert a diacritic, for example, the copyright symbol, you would right-click on a field, go to Field, Insert Diacritic, and I find it helpful to choose Filter by Diacritic Name, so then I can just type it to search for the symbol I'm looking for. Okay, back to the presentation. Here are the notes on creating and saving bib records and those editing tools I just mentioned. Any questions at this point? Oops.
I think we're good.
All right, we'll move on. Okay, so next we'll talk about creating label templates and print lists and adding items to label print lists. If you want to print spine labels using Record Manager, first you have to create label templates, then label print lists based on those templates. Note that label templates and print lists are only saved per user. So if you create templates and lists on your account, and you maybe have a student worker or staff member who's going to help you with the labels, you have to then recreate those templates and lists in their account. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to Record Manager to demonstrate templates, print lists, and adding items. You create templates first in My Labels, Label Templates, New Template. I'm going to open one of mine here. There are some prefab label templates that may match up with the labels you have, or you can create a custom template, which is what I've ended up having to do for mine. You can customize the page settings and setup here, and then the label setup, and then the content settings, which are the content and design of the text. Once we've created a template, you can create a print list and label print lists, and then go to new label print list. And you see, you name it, you can give it a description, and then here you have to choose your label template from the ones you've created. I'm going to show you an example of a list that has items in it. So you get a table of all the items you've added. And you can see it has a call number, title, count, and record type. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a link back to any of these items or their records, which I think would be helpful. And then further down the page, you'll get a print preview of exactly how your page of labels will look once you print it. If you're printing on a partially empty sheet of labels, you can change the starting position of your sheet of labels here. You can also edit individual labels by clicking one of these edit buttons. And you can edit by either just typing straight up in this label text box, or you can use the table below and add fields and delete fields. Okay. And then when you're ready to print your list, there's a print button right up here. There are a few different methods for adding items to your print list. One option is from a bib record. You go to record, send to, label print list, and then you can choose or search for your list. If you add a label from a bib record, it will not include any extra data you may have added to the 852 field of a local holdings record, for example, a call number prefix. Another option is from a local holdings record. From your open LHR, you go to record, send to label print list. You can also do it from an LHR search results. That same actions menu we've looked at a couple times has the send to label print list. And so you could do up to 100 labels at a time from a search result list. And then the final and my preferred option is from a label print list. So I'm going to go back to my labels and my label print list I had open. So you go to add records using barcodes, click that button, and then you can enter barcodes, just scan them in, and you can do up to 100 at a time. Also, as a side note here, I want to point out the difference between adding a label from a bib record and from an LHR. So here I have the Audacity of Hope, the same item. This top one here is a bibliographic record, it says on the right side. And the second one is from an LHR. You can see that they both brought through the call number, but the LHR brought through the call number prefix and the bib record did not. I have a couple reasons why I prefer to add labels using the barcode method. I used to use the second method I mentioned, adding from an LHR, but I'd inevitably forget to add a few here or there and wind up having to carefully compare each physical item on my shelf or cart to my label print list to ensure that every item had actually been added when I was ready to print labels. Also, once you add items to the label print list, they really have to stay in that order on your shelf or cart, because once the labels are printed, they're just call numbers with no corresponding title to help you match them to the items. I do scan the barcode of each item before sticking the label on to make sure I match the correct label with the correct book, but still it's better to have them in basically the right order. There's often a gap between when I edit item records and when I actually work on their physical processing, and I don't like worrying that they stay in perfect order for that period of time. Adding records to label print lists by scanning their barcodes means that I don't have to worry about missing a step in my process that I'll have to double check later, and I don't have to worry about keeping items in any particular order until I'm ready to label them. So here's a summary of the templates and print lists, as well as all those ways you can add items to print lists. Okay, so our final topic today is how to get help with Record Manager. There are several different sources for getting help with WMS and Record Manager, and unfortunately, you need all of them because they all provide you with slightly different help. I have all of them linked here directly from the presentation slides, so you can get right to them, but I'm also going to demonstrate how you can navigate to them from Record Manager. So first we have Mark Field Help. So I'm going to go back to a bib record. So Mark Field Help is not specific to Record Manager. It's help with Mark in general, but you can access it directly from a bib record by right-clicking on a field and then go to Field Help, Mark Field Help. This opens it in a new window. So Mark Field Help goes through every field. You can see all the different kind of subsets of fields across here, and then each field listed on the left side here. Goes through every field, its definition, guidelines, first indicator, second indicator, subfields, and has all these examples within it of those subfields. I find it really helpful as a refresher on the specifics of following Mark, though it doesn't fully explain every single thing and kind of the reasoning behind everything. So I think it's most helpful if you already have some background knowledge. If you need more info on cataloging and Mark, then what's found here, I can recommend a textbook. Close this out, back to Record Manager. The next one I want to mention is OCLC supports WMS documentation, which you can access through Need Help, General Help. And that opens it in a new tab here. And then if you go to Metadata Services, that's where you can directly find the Record Manager specific stuff. And these are all of the official how-to documents created by OCLC. This is typically where I start when I have a question. Also linked from here is Contact OCLC Support. So this is by region, so you scroll down to United States, it has their contact info, but then also submit view requests. So you'll probably just want to create a Zendesk account because that allows you to submit and track support tickets there. Back in Record Manager, also under the Need Help menu, is the Community Center. And I'm going to go to the Record Manager community. And you need to use and subscribe to the Community Center for a few reasons. One is that you're going to come across issues and questions that the documentation can't answer. So the next step would be either to contact OCLC support directly or to check the Community Center discussion boards to see if another user has posted about it. So here's the discussion boards. You'll see lots of posts down here, and you can search them as well. Sometimes checking the discussion board is a quicker and easier first step than contacting support, because frankly, not all OCLC support agents are created equal. In the discussion boards, there may be a post that either answers your question or lets you know right off that what you want to do just isn't possible. It's not a functionality that exists in WMS. The news section announces trainings, office hours, and most importantly, upcoming new releases of Record Manager. And hopefully it'll load here. There we go. And I suggest subscribing to email updates by clicking follow here. And then you'll get an email whenever they announce something on here. The Community Center is also where you can submit enhancement suggestions in this enhancements section. And this is for functionalities you'd like to see added to Record Manager. If someone else has already suggested it, so you can search what's been suggested. If someone else has already suggested it, you can add comments and a rating to support the request and say, yes, I also think this should be added to Record Manager. All right, back in the help documentation, here. Back to Record Manager. There is a section on release notes and known issues all the way at the bottom here. This is another helpful place to check to keep up to date on any changes and whether a problem you're having is a known issue. So it has them divided up by when, like which release something might have been a part of, and then a list of known issues here at the bottom. There are also monthly office hours, and that is noted under Get Started, Record Manager office hours. And those are on every fourth Wednesday, and you can just pop in, you don't have to pre-register. All right, and finally, I want to point out the system status dashboard, which is also linked from here. So this, once it loads, there we go, indicates the status of all the different OCLC systems. And if you can subscribe to updates here, which is really helpful because then you'll get notifications if anything is planned to be out or something's happened in their system downtime. And then I added my email address here. So feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help however I can. And if you are willing to be a resource for others to reach out to, then go ahead and add your contact info into the chat. All right, so that concludes my presentation. Thanks to you all again for joining me. And I'm happy to answer any more questions that have come up, or if anyone has any other suggestions or different perspectives on things that I talked about, feel free to bring those up too.
Thank you so much, Samantha. This was so thorough. And I know that we've gotten some comments that folks are glad that this was recorded to kind of review back all the information that you shared. If anybody has any questions, we'll stick around for a few minutes. But it's kind of nice to leave a little bit before 3 o'clock because I know sometimes that start of the hour can be a time for meetings and whatnot.